go. Welcome to the Awesemo Morning Show. Let me fix that camera.
I was just about to do it myself.
Shit, man. Must have got knocked. How's that? That's better.
Perfect.
Rocking a little Sixers gear today. I promise you I won't be wearing any Eagles gear. Not supporting you, Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, you sons of bitches. Welcome to the Awesemo Morning Show. Dave Loughran, Josh Engleman, and Ben Rasa. We got a good one ahead of us today. A big show, a lot to hit on. Round one of the first ever virtual NFL draft. You're going to hear my thoughts on Howie Roseman thinking he's smarter than everyone momentarily. Ben had a pretty tough night. Some rough beats, pretty much as bad as it could have gone, or however bad it could have gone, it went. Chiefs making some wild decisions. Our best and worst picks of the night, the craziest picks. Fellas, an interesting round one of the draft. It, for the most part, went off without a hitch.
Floor's yours.
True. Yeah, it was no crazy internet moments, few hiccups, which that happens on every type of broadcast. So nothing there. Had its moments. There's a lot to break down between the picks, the analysis, the whole way it was run with Goodell and whatnot, and the fans on the little TV. A lot of things like that. To me, fell kind of flat, but at the core of it, it was still very entertaining.
Good morning to everyone. By the way, welcome to everyone. Glad to have you with us as always. Alex says, yeah, the show was clean. It was. The show was pretty clean. I did find it interesting that they only interviewed a couple of players where they had plenty of time to do it. Like Josh pointed out, they actually did take all 10 minutes to make that first Bengals pick. You were right. I don't know how much of that was due to being able to get to be able to get highlights in there, or just to jam in another 8 minutes of coronavirus coverage. But and I know Ben smiles. I know this might be a touchy subject, so I'll get it out of the way early. I think all of us are fully aware of how serious this is. It was a virtual draft. No sports are happening. It's bad. It's literally the only thing we hear about every day. I thought it was a little bit of overkill. I honestly did. And I know it was a draft-a-thon. I am very much in tune with that. And I love the idea, but it did feel like every opportunity, every little point that they didn't mention a player was, the third rendition of Lean on Me, or, I guess it just felt like, to some extent, this was the one draft that gave us a respite from the daily reminder that we're stuck inside, but it was a constant reminder that we were stuck inside.
Were they talking a lot about the coronavirus? I didn't notice. Ben, I know you don't like. I know you don't like.
Listen.
To go on about these things, but I don't think we're saying anything wrong.
Not at all.
Every single second that wasn't football was COVID-19. It's all we hear about every day anyway.
And listen, I wasn't even like, I get the narrative of like, I want to be able to disconnect from what's going on for 3 hours. It wasn't even that for me. The thing that got me was it really felt that they were just saying the same thing over and over. Like, they weren't even hitting different points. It was just the same thing over and over about like, we're in this together. We're going to get through it. Thanks to the first responders. Thanks for the people battling, which goes without saying. But you don't have to say it after every pick. I didn't really get that part of it. And it was definitely palpable. I was watching with May and I turned to her and I was just like, is this me, or are they just, it seems like they just keep saying that. So that was a little, I don't want to say strange, but it was noticeable. Other than that, though, I mean, like I said, the Goodell. What did you think of Goodell?
Yeah. By the way, Jamal, I hear you on, if all of us were aware about the severity, there wouldn't be well, it is and it isn't. Those type of people are certainly not going to change their minds based on being berated with commercials, in an NFL draft. It's not gonna work. Like, what I'm saying is, everybody that is aware of it by now, they've already made their minds up. The decisions have been made as to how they're going to proceed. Nothing done yesterday was going to make a difference. I thought Roger Goodell was fine. The whole like encouraging the booing was super cringy. Like no doubt,
Awful.
it was really cringy. But ultimately, Josh, the broadcast, for all of the problems that could have happened, there was for all of the issues that could have happened, they mitigated or avoided most of them. Although it was weird that they didn't interview more than a couple of players. You have to wonder if maybe behind the scenes there were some technical issues happening.
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to go off essentially without a hitch. This is people have been doing drafts for a while now online, so I expected there to be no real major issues. The thing that I noticed the most from it, and I guess we're seeing it a little. I saw it a little bit with the WWE. It's boring when no people are like in attendance. It feels so sterile and so fake. And, like there's just no energy because you can clearly only hear like one person at a time. It was snooze like inducing to me. I hated it. I hated it. Like I loved the NFL draft itself. I hated the experience.
I was drinking, so it wasn't quite as unbearable to me. And I was more just fascinated by how they were doing things. There is no question that, I mean, that's the funny thing is like, that's the best they could have done.
Is
you
it?
know, I don't know how much better you can do. I'm not disagreeing that it was boring, but I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not necessarily sure you could have done much more with that.
I'm trying to get a couple, like 3 or 4 people in the same spot in a couple different places and having like letting a couple people have an actual conversation.
Oh, dude, I would have been perfectly fine with that. Yeah. Joe Rogan does it 5 days a week on his podcast. He comes in, they do like they do the testing, they wait, they keep their distance, and Joe Rogan does a test, his guest does a test, and boom. You know, there it is. And they sit in the room together. Now, again, you want to get into the conversation of whether or not it's ethical because, you know, other people need tests. Sure. I'm of the belief that people need entertainment as well. So, Josh, I don't disagree. I think that would have been very nice. But in terms of what they were willing to do, I think we all know the answers to that, Ben. But it was kind of interesting watching people in their houses. We caught some candid shots, to say the least.
So that part was underrated entertaining for me, seeing everyone's house, whether it's the players or the GMs. You had like Cliff Kingsbury going just straight baller. You had Mike Zimmer in like a ski lodge. You had a lot of different things going on. And then you had Mike Vrabel in a Pulp Fiction den-esque. I don't know what was going on at that house. I think a lot of people have more questions than answers. That part was fun. I found it entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I was very tilted by other things, but I did not say, man, it was more awkward than boring to me.
Okay. Yeah. There was a guy taking a shit in the Vrabel household.
And that was not the strangest thing on the camera at the time.
Or second.
Mekhi Becton, his grandfather or his dad or his uncle, I'm not sure who it was. Monstrous human being.
So on that pick, they're talking about Mekhi Becton and they're just like, this guy's a monster. He's gigantic. They go to the house and I thought that was him for a second. I was the most confused I've ever been because I was like, there's no way this guy can't be able to move. He's 500 pounds. Then I quickly realized that was one of the biggest people I've ever seen.
Massive, man.
And CeeDee Lamb's girl is like one of the finest women on this planet. Josh,
who's better, CeeDee Lamb's girl or Jamal Murray's girl?
I don't even need to see CeeDee Lamb's girl to say Jamal Murray's.
It's got a Twitter
poll. A really tough question. Wait,
I mean, it's definitely Murray.
I don't know.
Obviously,
we know she's a hero already.
Ben, did you see CeeDee Lamb's girl? All right, I'm gonna send it to you. It's like if you like, I was jaw to the ground. It pretty spectacular. Let me say, good job, CeeDee Lamb.
You're just jealous that the Cowboys got him.
Oh, I'm pissed, and we're gonna get into that. Don't worry, we're gonna get into that. But yeah, just wanted to shout out CeeDee Lamb on a great job done. Anyway, any other strange coverage from? I think there was only one technical difficulty. Ben, you and I discussed that, and it may have been just the fact that the host, who was it? Trey Wingo. I don't even remember. I know who the host was.
Yeah, Trey Wingo.
They did the joint ESPN NFL bro. I think Trey Wingo may have forgot to throw it to somebody, so they all just stood there. You know, he made a statement / comment and threw it out there, but didn't put a name. So I don't know if that was a mix-up in the broadcast and in the audio, or he just forgot to set up the question.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't a technical thing, but obviously a lot of people, Chad already mentioned it. Gettleman putting on the mask was hilarious. That was one of the dumbest things I've seen fitting with that pick. But no, for the most part, listen, I think if your expectations were too high, you need to reevaluate. Like you knew it was going to be a little different than normal, and it was. But you know what? I was glued to the TV for 3-4 hours, and that's kind of all you can ask for.
Yeah, I was there as well. Also glued to the couch. But I think ultimately the Gettleman thing, I mean, what type of shit is that?
Oh, I mean, I have no issue with it at all.
What? What do you mean no issue? It's not an issue, but that's why are you wearing a mask when you're by yourself?
Because there was an IT person in this house.
They were like 100 feet away from each other.
Look, he did chemo treatments recently. I have no issue with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if there were people in the room, I get it. It just looked.
Oh, did he have? Did he have chemo treatment?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
And there was definitely someone in his
that.
house with him.
No. I know they're allowed to have one IT guy in the house, the decision maker. I'll give you that.
It was weird to me too until I read that.
Because you didn't see I was wondering if you were going to see the IT people, like if they were going to be like huddled with the GM, like showing them how to like submit. But for the most part, you really just saw the GMs. Like I didn't notice those guys at all.
Yeah, I loved seeing Zach Taylor basically around 8 computers when you know he's just playing solitaire or something.
Seriously.
I mean, the decision was made a very long time ago. Yeah, it's just silly.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot to get into here. Hit that thumbs up button if you're just joining us. We appreciate it. It really does help us work around that YouTube algorithm. For some, the more interaction, the more chat, the more thumbs up. It helps us get this show out to more people. So you guys have done a job in helping us, and we appreciate it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. So Howie Roseman.
Oh, here we go.
Just go. You get it out of the way now.
Howie Roseman thinks he's smarter than everybody else. Is he a smarter man than I am? I'm sure he is, right? He's a GM of a professional NFL football team. I get it. But you go and you draft Jalen Reagor, even if you like Jalen Reagor, right? Even if your argument is that he had a bad quarterback last year, fine. But he also dropped 9 passes. He had a 47% reception rate. There were some glaring defects in Jalen Reagor's game when Justin Jefferson was still on the board. And I'm not even a big Justin Jefferson guy. It's the idea that every single year, Howie Roseman finds a way. Every single year, Howie Roseman finds a way to outsmart the competition while at the same time outsmarting himself. Over the last decade, here are the wide receivers the Eagles have drafted. Let me know how many you've heard of. Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, drafted him before Terry McLaurin and before DK Metcalf, Mac Hollins, Shelton Gibson, Nelson Aguilar, Jordan Matthews, Josh Huff, Marvin McNutt. Yes, Marvin McNutt and Riley Cooper. That's who they've drafted over the last decade at the wide receiver position. So forgive me if I'm not eternally confident in Howie Roseman's ability to reach on a guy that many had outside of the top 40, draft him at 21, instead of trading down to draft another receiver at some point, or taking Jalen Reagor in the 2nd round, as Minnesota says, oh, look at this gift you bestowed upon us with Justin Jefferson coming right after them. So yeah, maybe Jalen Reagor will be good. It's possible. I'm not hating on him yet, but when they describe him as, oh, he's got that gadget mentality, sweet. I love those gadget receivers. We know the success rate they have when reaching on them every year.
Five wide receivers have rankings ahead of Reagor that were available to be drafted per the ESPN ranks that we've been looking at. 5.
Okay.
That's a lot of wide receivers to not be taken before the guy that they end up taking. He had an 82 grade. Jefferson, 91. Ayuk, 90.
Yeah,
T. Higgins, 88. Like, I can name a couple guys now that didn't even get drafted yet. T. Higgins,
Mims.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Pittman,
I thought you were trying to refute my point. You were saying 5 that were still on the board.
There were 5
at high rate.
Yeah, and a couple of them have not been drafted yet.
Yeah, Higgins didn't get drafted. Mims, if that was one of them.
Unbelievable stuff. And it's just the problem I have. It's not that they took him, Josh. I don't know where they took him. It's where they took him. I've said this on two shows ago that, like, in fantasy drafts, I'm willing to draft anybody as long as they're in an appropriate spot. But you didn't need to take Jalen Reagor at 21. There's just no need to take him there, yet they did, and they reached. And I'd love to see if there was any historical data showing the NFL performance or production of players who have been reached upon, say, 15 to 20 picks ahead of their projected draft pick. My guess, not very good.
Thanks for giving me that question now, man. I would have put that together for today.
I don't know where you could you do that?
I can do that for the last 10 years.
Let's do it for Monday.
Okay.
He's got Josh Doxson as a mentor from TCU, so he's got that going for him.
How have TCU wide receivers performed in this league, Ben?
Yeah, well, win some, you lose some. Turpin could have been good if he didn't get arrested many times. But yeah, I was certain that was going to be Jefferson. That was one of the many things that went wrong for me on the betting side last night. I could not believe they didn't take him. And yeah, I mean, where I feel. If you're going to take a shot, go for a home run. Take Chenault. That could be a huge bust, but at least if you get it right, you get a home run. I can't imagine, maybe I'll be wrong, that Jalen Reagor is like a boom bust guy. I think he could be fine, but I don't really see why you would do that if you could just take a more known commodity in Jefferson.
Yeah. Adam B says he could be a slight reach. His highlights are wild, though. He looks like a young AB. The problem with highlights is that they're highlights. It didn't show.
Did you watch the low light video?
Right. It didn't show the fact that he had one of the higher drop rates in the league last year. There are some concerns, and he's the type of guy that, okay, yeah, he can make plays, but at this rate, I look at Howie Roseman and say, well, if the Cardinals got DeAndre Hopkins for a 4th rounder and David Johnson, what would it have taken to just go out there and find a way to get DeAndre Hopkins on the team? I would throw my 1st round pick at them because they don't know what to do with it anyway when it comes to drafting wide receivers. Drives me nuts.
Listen, Jalen Reagor, like most guys who are pseudo 1st or 2nd rounders, they've done some serious damage on the field. That goes for all of them, though, and it's it's just more than that at this point. I just don't see. It's all about risk reward, like Laffy talked about. It's not the pick. It's that at 20, why not trade back? Why not grab, even if it's a little, you grab a 4th rounder, you grab an extra 6th, it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to get Jalen Reagor. There's no doubt in my mind. If you're not sold on Jefferson, which that's a whole nother question of why they weren't.
And Jerry Jones, cutting off his nose to spite his face, drafts CeeDee Lamb. Now, I'm joking in that he did it to spite the Eagles, although the Eagles did snipe Dallas Goedert a couple of years back. And there's, reason to believe that there was some, animosity there. They go and they draft CeeDee Lamb at 17. At 17. And now they have Amari Cooper and they have Michael Gallup, who had his first 1,000-yard season last year, and CeeDee Lamb. Josh, it's an interesting pick because now they've got a dynamic, explosive offense. But is that the right move for the Dallas Cowboys given their holes and needs elsewhere? Or do you just take best player available in a spot like that?
That one's tricky, man. I'm a big fan of taking best player available in the NFL unless like there is a very clear, like, let's say that you have CD before the draft. You're like, I have CD Lamb 10th tied with so-and-so. Like, we can't really split this. Then I don't mind just being like, okay, well, we've got 27 different pass catchers and no offensive linemen. I think that we can draft slightly more for need. At the same time, like, to get him at 17 feels like a little bit of a boon. It's such a tough balance now with wideouts because I immediately think, like, do they just have too many weapons now? Like, that can be a thing, maybe. Can you be the Rams and it becomes, like, problematic? I don't know. I don't hate the pick. It's exciting because he's a wide receiver. Like, it's always
flashy,
yeah, like, the public is always going to be slightly more interested in a pick like that because it has fantasy value.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, first of all, Amari Cooper just signed a $100 million contract.
Right.
Okay. But the big thing is, and I actually mentioned this to a buddy of mine this morning, the Cowboys, Ben, always managed to make the exciting, sexy picks in the drafts, right? From Elliott being one of them, and now CeeDee Lamb. There's a good amount of them that you see out of the Dallas Cowboys. Hasn't translated to much yet. So does it concern me that CeeDee Lamb is in the division when we should have done everything to trade up to get him? And that's another story. They said Howie Roseman really tried, but no one was biting. Okay. But is it the right move to take him there, Ben?
I don't think it's the wrong move to take him there, but I think the key point that Josh made is that it's so split. It makes more waves than I think it should because this guy's electric. This guy's going to be catching touch. Rather, if you take a guard that shores up your line for 10 years, no one, it's like, oh, okay. I don't even know who that is, but people like CeeDee Lamb. People have opinions on him. He's explosive. So yeah, it's going to make their offense that more dynamic. But what did they sacrifice in terms of need? Were there guys that certainly aren't going to gain traction in terms of the media that could help the team more? I don't know that, but I didn't mind it at 17. I didn't think he would be around that late.
I didn't either. The fact that there was a legitimate shot for the Eagles to potentially land him was crazy. I knew he wouldn't get there, but yeah, it's a matter of, do you want those three receivers? Did you not want a cornerback? Did you not want somebody in your defense? Because they had some serious issues, particularly late in the season. And another thing is, who are they going to run in the slot?
Yeah, it's
Great
not.
question.
That's a concern.
What do you have? Three? Maybe you like. I'm sure you can run Amari and Gallup in the slot a little bit, like if you needed to. But these are three guys that, for all intents and purposes, function better as outside wideouts, receivers. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, to be fair, any Dallas Cowboys fan is going to defend this. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, any Dallas Cowboys fan is going to defend this tooth and nail to the death. That will be the case, right? Would you guys disagree with that?
No, not at all.
But that's not unique to Dallas.
No, that every I think every team's fan base is happy that they took a flashy wide receiver in lieu of a D lineman.
Just let me shit on Dallas for a second. My God.
You don't have it's Dallas.
I've got better news for you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
I can give you guys all of the biggest reaches since 2009 in each draft if you want it.
Okay, so you have all of the biggest reaches. And by the way, I appreciate all you guys, but when it comes to Dallas, we will never see eye to eye, and I hope this continues forever, because without these type of rivalries, it's not worth even discussing. So Okay.
I could hit you with like two or three, the two or three biggest first round reaches from each draft since 2009 to just try and get like a quick pulse of it if you're interested.
Yeah, let's run through it real quick.
Okay, it's a copy paste, so it's really easy. Okay, so 2009, I would say that there were three that are viable. Josh Freeman was ranked 46th. He went 17th.
My man.
To me,
Okay.
like I'm throwing quarterbacks out. Like if you're going to reach for anything and you need to get your guy, a quarterback is different.
That's fair, but let's also acknowledge that he did not pan out. Go ahead.
Started great too. That's the weird part.
Yeah, he did. But a lot of these young guys start out really well, and then once the league gets a read on them, it's a wrap anyway.
Oh,
all right. Who else?
No doubt about it. Okay.
And by the way, this conversation, the catalyst for this conversation was discussing if we have historical data for anyone just tuning in on players that were taken well ahead of their projected draft.
Yeah.
Specifically Jalen Reagor to the Eagles at 21, when certain places had him outside of the top 40, outside of the top 50. Go ahead.
And I'm going based on ESPN's rank heading into the draft. So we have it's the same thing for each one. Next would be Darius Hayward-Bay, ranked 27th, went 7th.
And by the way, if you're a Raiders fan, you have to have at least some concerns. I like Henry Ruggs, but there's got to be people having deja vu right now. Like, oh no, did they do it again? They took him over Judy and Lamb. Is he going to end up being Darius Hayward-Bay again? Yeah.
And then third biggest reach before like a little bit of a drop off of reaches. This one is a good one, actually. Alex Mack was ranked 39th, went 21st.
Wow. Okay. Alex Mack.
Yeah.
The TV show.
Yeah. He turned into a puddle of water and people were like, oh my God, he can shapeshift. And they were like, well, I don't know if we could take this guy.
Green slime slithering under the door, and he's gone. And he's gone.
All right. So for
who else?
For 20, that's for 29, like for 2000, I'm only looking at first rounders and like pretty big gaps. For 2010, let me filter this back down again. Less than or equal to 32. Okay. Wow. Here's a big one. You ready for it? This is a 40 spot gap. This is the biggest we've seen so far.
Marcus Johnson for the Eagles.
Ranked 65th, picked 25, quarterback Tim Tebow.
Oh, Tebow. Another failure.
Yeah.
Yep. Wait till you get to Marcus Johnson.
I don't know what year that's going to be, but I'll keep an eye out. Tyson Alualu, ranked 34th, picked 10th for the Jags. That is the other big one from this particular draft. Nothing else too crazy. Ryan Matthews, ranked 26th, went 12th. Would be
that's not that bad for me.
No, agreed. I did. Basically, it's Tebow and Tyson Alualu, which is, I mean, Tebow's obviously a whole different discussion.
Yeah, he doesn't really count.
No.
It wasn't Marcus Johnson, by the way. It's somebody else. But anyway, are there more?
I mean, I can do every single year.
I just want to. There was it was who was it? First round, he reached like unbelievably high, like just unbelievably high. Marcus Smith.
I don't know who that is.
Next one's Christian Ponder, 45 to 12. Again,
Christian Ponder,
another quarterback. Jake Locker, 25 to 8. So we're seeing a theme of it regularly being quarterbacks. Not a lot of reaches for other positions from left field to
so far. What, one of these guys has been successful?
James Carpenter, 43rd ranked guy, went 25th. That's an 18-point difference.
Who else do we got?
Cam Newton, 15 to 1. That's not much. This was 2011, so I don't think that anything too crazy. We don't really see it. We're not really seeing as much as I was expecting.
Because so the thing that I take from this though, when they rank these guys,
as dumb as Howie Roseman.
Yeah, well that, and then they don't. The way they rank them, it's you take position out of it, kind of. It's just best players. The position scarcity for quarterback and how important they are forces you a lot of times to go get a guy who's not going to be if he was the 8th best available player, he'd probably go first.
Right.
Because it's not like there's 7 quarterbacks ahead of him. And if you need a quarterback, you're going to have to reach.
100%.
No,
So,
you're right. Yes, if you really need a position
Ooh.
and he's like the 10th best guy overall, but he's the best at his position, sure. But there have been some bad ones.
I got one
Um,
here. Bruce Irvin, ranked 56th, went 15.
Can you go to 2014 to Marcus Smith?
Yes, please. Yeah, I don't know.
I
why
don't
said
know
please.
who is Marcus
Yes.
Smith.
I don't know. I have no
That-
idea.
he was
who you're
they
talking about.
drafted him in the first round, Ben.
Yeah, I truly don't know who that is.
He was a projected, I think, third rounder.
Well, we're gonna get into.
Let me make sure I get him.
I have a couple guys from last night that I want to talk
Okay,
about
he was
in that
ranked
regard.
80, so he's definitely in my
80.
yeah,
He was ranked 80,
yeah,
80th.
yeah.
And where did he get drafted?
I don't know. I still don't even know who this person is.
Oh my God, he was ranked 80th. They took him 26th. They took. This is what I. This is what I
he's
deal
second,
with.
but he's 54 points off. That's the biggest one we've seen. Derek Carr actually ahead of him here, but again,
Where was Smith? Wait, you said you changed it. It wasn't.
well, no. So Carr was ranked 95th. He went 36th, but we're throwing out
Okay.
quarterback. So Marcus Smith is 54 ranking points off.
So in 2014,
Ooh,
Chip
there's a
Kelly
bunch of them in this draft.
overdrafts a linebacker by 54 spots because he's smarter than you are. Him and Howie are smarter than you are. Smith played 37 games. He had 4 sacks and 2 forced fumbles with Seattle the following year, or 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles with 14 games with Seattle. But as an Eagle, he had 4 sacks. This dude was drafted 26th overall, a colossal disaster. And this is why, if you wonder why I'm jaded, this is why I'm jaded, because of picks like this. How about the fireman? The Eagles drafted in the first round a fireman who was 27 years old
Catching
at the
babies.
time of drafting him.
Dude, they allowed a garbage man to play.
I know.
Oh, sorry, man. I must be hitting the pipe a little bit too much. That was Tony Danza in the garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon.
I'm just
My
going
bad.
along with it. I'm just going along with anything at this point because it wouldn't look. Danny Watkins was.
There's a lot
He
more
was
in this draft of big reaches.
I mean, I don't. Yes, there are reaches, but again, if you have a need, you have to go get him. The problem is when you jump like 6 other at the position to get the guy. That's
Oh, like
the
that
problem.
one's egregious. Kelvin Benjamin,
Yeah.
69, went 28. Like, that's a lot. There
Yeah,
comes a
there's a
point in
difference-
time where you can gain yourself additional value by just moving slightly. And if you miss on that guy, touche. Like, I'm not
Right,
saying that
but-
if someone's ranked 69th, like Kelvin Benjamin was, that you need to trade to 68 to make sure you extract it. But at least go from 28 to 34 or something.
Yeah,
I wonder how easy it is to do that.
It has to be simple.
Nicholas is saying he's with you, Ben. But here's the thing: we're all with you. There's a difference here. Drafting. If you have a guy that's ranked in the 80s and you draft him 26, there's no argument there that, well, he was the best linebacker on the board. Okay. If that's the case, then you know what? You don't get a linebacker that year. Or meaning you do, and you wait till the 4th round or the 3rd round. Fine. You want to reach in the 3rd round. Fine. You can do that. Or you just say, you know what? We're not going to get him because I'm not going to waste draft capital. I'm not going to take someone in the 1st round that is set to be drafted in the 3rd or 4th. Maybe you think he's better than 82. But you're not smart enough to draft somebody 26th when they're ranked 82nd.
No.
And I'll do you one better, Josh.
Unless they're
Not
ranked
only that-
86 because they like stabbed a dude in college or something like that.
That's different.
If they don't have a red flag on them for like personal issues, it's awful.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
I
And,
find
and it comes down, Ben, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Last thing here. The difference between all of that is when you're drafting them there, you're not outsmarting people. You're the one making the huge mistake because everyone knows he would have been there. So you reached on a guy that it's the same thing with fantasy football. Like, oh, I needed to get this guy, so I drafted him 3 rounds ahead of where he should have gone. Well, no matter how much you like him, you just drafted him over 25 guys that, while you don't like them as much, are still probably going to produce more than that player.
Yeah. Ben.
I don't know. I guess my only question would be, why would teams trust ESPN's ratings?
No. I know, but the what I'm saying is is there a gap in terms of like ESPN scouting and like, Yahoo Sports scouting and what
No.
the actual scouts are on? Of course.
No.
Of course.
See, that's the question. I think, if you say no, then I get it. If you think yes, then I think it's irrelevant where
Well,
they
I
have
say
it.
yes because the mock drafts are never, exactly or even close to what we think.
Because that has nothing to do with the talent of the players. That's an information gathering exercise.
No,
The
and
mock
you're
draft
right.
is
Okay.
no comparison.
You're right. But just even if it was, that's still you making the assumption that every other ranking and every other team is going to be either every team is thinking what you're thinking, or every ranking is 50 to 60 players off in terms of where this guy stands.
I think that the draft is a crapshoot. The edge is basically non-existent. And if you took the 3 or 4 best scouting services out there and didn't pay your own scouting service as a team, you'd be okay, and it wouldn't really change anything.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
agree.
I don't
with
think
that.
you ever need to see anything.
Wait, you don't think anyone needs to see anything?
No. If you told me that one of these teams didn't have a scouting department and they just took the aggregate of a couple ranking services that actually did this, I think they come out fine. If you understand like the math of acquiring assets and trading up and down, like trading back in the draft, I think that you can come out higher than the average team just by not being an idiot. I think the bar is
get
that low. I don't think it matters if you're scouting anybody. I don't think that you can. I mean, these teams are proving it again and again that it's really, really difficult to separate talent in this draft. There
Ben,
may
what
be
if I
one or
would
two
make-
that can.
What about the idea that, and Josh, I in a sense I see what you're saying, but what about the fact that when we look at all of these massive reaches, none of them, and I know we haven't looked at enough, but I'd be willing to bet that most of them on these massive reaches don't pan out.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between having a relatively successful NFL career and paying off first round talent. Like if Marcus Smith was drafted in the late 3rd, he still would have been a disappointment, but drafted in the 1st, it's a massive, massive bust.
Yeah.
And I think you have to at least look at it that way as like, where is it? Where are you willing to draw a line in terms of rankings? Anywhere? Like, would you draft a guy at 22 that everyone else has outside of the first 3 rounds?
Never.
So that's where that's
Neither
the
would
point.
I,
I
Josh,
think.
so I wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah, I think that's the point to kind of talk about.
And none of us are scouts. Sorry,
No.
I
I
None of
think
us
I'm
just count.
more apt to. I don't think it's as easy as we're making it, where it's like, all right, we know this guy's not going to go till the 3rd round, so we'll just trade to the 2nd round and take him there. I don't know if it's that simple. Maybe it is, and if that's the case, teams really would be short-sighted by saying we have to get this guy now. But if you go with Josh's formula, where it's like it doesn't really matter if you miss a guy because you don't even know if you've missed. That's a different story. I think that's very reasonable. I just don't agree with that.
Okay. Fair
Like,
enough.
We'll see if Ruggs is there. If not, we'll take Judy. If not, we'll take Lamb because it doesn't really matter.
Right. But then it's like if Lamb's not there, we'll take, Marvin McNutt. Like that's the difference. There's got to be a cutoff line here where
Of course.
there are enough people that rank someone so far down that either you truly believe you're smarter than everybody else, right? And that you've found what they couldn't, you've discovered what they could never see, or you're just wrong.
When they
are wrong on.
Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were done.
No, so when they are wrong on stuff like that, I don't think it's like, oh, shucks, that, they took a stab and then they just couldn't do it and it didn't work. But you have to actually look internally and say, why was no one else even close to that? Why was everybody shocked? And then he didn't pan out.
It's rare that you're ever going to see situations like that and think like, oh, I pulled one over on literally everyone. I would assume that the wisdom of the crowds is right in that scenario.
I'm saying I don't think it's on everyone. I'm saying there's other teams that may have comparable grades to what you have, despite ESPN's being wildly different.
I'd be surprised. But I mean,
Okay,
like, you know, one or two. Yeah, sure. Like, I'm not going to say that all 32 teams are going to be in
Josh,
lockstep.
Exactly. But not all of them. Not when.
But that would stand out to me, and I
guy,
would be like, why in the world are we ranking this guy 60 points ahead of him when no one on the planet has really ever shown this ability to separate guys like this?
See, to me, there's a huge universal difference between being the only team and being 5 teams that do this. I think the odds of success, if it's just like in NBA DFS, like if you're the only person that is on a guy, you probably made a big mistake.
Yeah.
If you're getting someone at like 4% owned, now it's very reasonable that maybe you and a handful of people are seeing something that's actually possible.
And I'm not necessarily saying I don't like Jalen Reagor as a pick, but I am concerned about where they took him.
It's a terrible pick.
And I think that, like, Chad is making some good, valid points. And a lot of it I agree with, in that, like, look, they liked him over Jefferson. Fine. And Ben makes a good point in saying maybe it's not as easy as we think to trade back to get to somebody. But at the same time, are you the opportunity cost in saying, screw it, we're just going to take him. It's first round pick. The value of a first round pick in the NFL is immense. So when you still have guys like Mims, for example, and several other good wide receivers that are still on the board, and you decide to forego them because this is your guy, how much of an issue do we need to take with this is my guy mentality and nobody else can get him, and I'm taking him here because I'm afraid he's going to get taken somewhere else? Like, I don't know. I take issue with it, but you guys want to move on? We got a lot to hit on here.
One last thing on it. I'm surprised that
I could do this all day.
Same.
This conversation, but I want to, you know.
The final point, and I'm surprised that a lot of organizations do stuff like that, given how quickly people are on the hot seat and lose their jobs. You would think you wouldn't want to deviate so much, and you would want, like, more often than not in these scenarios, teams are really risk averse, and those spots are just like, now, like for Philly, in a way, I get it. You probably have a slightly longer leash right now, but so many teams are like so terrified to make moves that are like more likely to put them out of a job. To see that happen like that is terrifying.
And you can't help but wonder how much of it has to do with wanting to outsmart people and wanting to be that guy. I'm sorry. It feels like that sometimes.
Yeah. And I just I don't think that you can do it.
Ben had a very tough night last night in the betting world. The man is solid at pretty much everything we talk about in these things. But Ben, talk to us. What went on yesterday? How did everything go so sideways?
Yeah, it was just a couple of, burning those edges. Will's not going under 9.5 was a killer for me. By the time the draft closed, it was basically a toss-up if he was going to go 4 to the Giants. He did not. He ended up going 10th. Then Jefferson at 21.5, same thing. So there was just a lot of that. But I really think it ties into what we were just talking about, in the sense of there were a couple teams, and this is where I kind of think we can transition to maybe the most puzzling picks out there, that really went for it, and it started with the Giants. They took a lineman that certainly was not, is it going to be Wills or Wirfs? They took Thomas. Then Ruggs to the Raiders was the second one of those picks that I thought was wildly surprising. And that, in my bets, absolutely killed me, both of those. And then the topper, and we can get into this at the end of the show, was the Chiefs taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire as the first running back. That was just, I don't know. That was shocking. Really didn't see that happening, but God, what a fascinating conversation. I know how you think, and I agree more than not. I think these guys think that they're smarter than maybe they are, and that's why we see it, I guess.
Yeah, it's tricky to me. I just don't.
That's what I've been saying.
Flying back in from the top rope.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything to add or anything. I had no idea when you were coming back. And you were just like,
when I heard that, I was like, I gotta jump back into this
You're
one.
good. Take over.
Go ahead, John.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so Ben, listen, you're an intelligent fella. People like to hear what you have to say. We have good arguments. We have good conversations every day, the three of us, because we're all able to see things the same way that each of us do,
Mhm.
even if we actually see them differently. Do you know what I'm saying, right?
Of course.
So, well, listen, it's 2020, dude.
No.
People aren't exactly able to see
Well,
things.
we
the way
always
others
talk
do.
about, we're great at that. Before shows, after shows,
Okay.
you know,
If
we
people
are
ever
always
heard
able
our
to find-
before show stuff, whew.
Yeah, our common ground is one of our biggest skill sets, and it's a underrated skill set in life to see what someone's saying and say, I see exactly what you mean, and I vehemently disagree.
Exactly. Yes. Like I can see how you get. Listen, politically, we all have
Oh yeah.
many different opinions on many different things, but as far as this goes, explain to me what you mean when you said you think they may just believe they're smarter, because I think we actually have found common ground here, because that's the issue that I think you see with a lot of these GMs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're in a role like that, who are you more likely to trust, yourself or the ESPN consensus rankings? I think for a lot of these people, that's not even a real consideration. You've put in, I mean, I think we all can't deny how hard these people work. I'm not saying they work efficiently. They've put in a lot of time on this stuff. The leash, in a way, being short, I think makes them more prone to do this because they know they may only have one shot and they want their guy. They're not going to take a guy they didn't want because that's the conservative, and then 2 years they don't even get a chance.
Right.
That's a good point.
So I think these teams, they go for it. It's a fine line. There's a lot of variance. I also think, and we'll never know this, that there's a lot of variance if you picked Marcus Smith 10 times, that he wouldn't be bad all 10 times. And guys that pan out and are great, I don't think they would be great all 10 times. So it's very complicated. A lot of tricky situations within it.
And I certainly do ask myself how much of this has to do with the fact that they are in a position of power, right? They're in a position to change the direction of the franchise. You know, Howie Roseman and I'm just using him as an example because I'm most familiar with that organization. Howie Roseman showered with praise when he traded away Sam Bradford, which resulted in drafting Carson Wentz, the future quarterback of this organization. Showered with praise. Hasn't done a damn thing since. As a matter of fact, they've made some pretty bad moves. But yeah, Ben, yesterday you definitely took some lumps and bruises, but there's kind of not much you can do. Like Jedrick Wills drafted 10th. You had under 9.5.
And he closed, just for the record, he was a -110 basically to go to the Giants at 4. So, I mean, the value, listen, Luffy, you know this, Josh, you guys know this. You've bet enough. You crush the closing lines, you've done your job.
Yep.
It just felt like one of those 9.5, the guy goes 10th, 21.5, Jefferson goes 22nd. The LSU running back being the last pick cost me a Bama versus LSU. Just things like that are frustrating, but not to change gears too much, but we have not mentioned what I think is the worst pick in the entire first round.
We're getting there, and go ahead, take it away.
So I would say it's the Raiders guy that I've never heard of. But worse than that to me, I cannot believe the Packers took Jordan Love. I thought that was incredibly dumb. I don't see, everyone's going to say, oh, well, they did it with Favre and Rodgers. I don't see this even remotely the same.
No.
And we actually had a poll on Twitter. Joey Corman, our social media guy, threw it out there. The question was, how pissed off should Aaron Rodgers be that the Packers drafted another NFL or another quarterback in the NFL 2020 draft? Not at all got 25%, a little bit got 19.4%, moderately got 20.8%, and leading this poll, furious 34.7%. From both of you guys, is this is the worst pick because Jordan Love isn't going to be good? Because Josh, we already know that Ben is not a big fan of Jordan Love. Or is this a horrible pick because Jordan Love isn't going to be good and Aaron Rodgers should be pissed off? Because I don't take players' feelings into consideration in a business like this. Aaron Rodgers will play until he's good, or he will continue to play. There's no doubt about that. I don't have an issue with finding someone's successor for down the road, but it just feels, and not in this scenario. Not in this scenario. In this scenario, I feel like it was premature and makes no sense. But why should we really care what Aaron Rodgers feels about who they're drafting unless it directly influences his ability. Like, should they have drafted a wide receiver? Did he need, you know what I mean? Did he need,
Yes.
I'm saying a lot here and I don't want to talk in circles, but I have a lot of thoughts on this.
It's a terrible pick. It is so stupid. It's insane. What do you think is you have to have the most pessimistic projection of the rest of Aaron Rodgers' career for you to think that this is any good. Let's say that Aaron Rodgers ages like normally and he continues to be a top 10 NFL quarterback for 2 years, 3 years. Jordan Love can't sniff the field in these scenarios. The Packers are competitive.
That's the problem.
They are good. And having Aaron Rodgers makes them really good. There is no scenario to put Jordan Love on the field barring Aaron Rodgers' injury. And there should be no one out there that is expecting Aaron Rodgers to not be the quarterback of the Packers the entire time that Jordan Love is under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what you gain here. It's too early. Like, you're either thinking, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to be terrible in a year and a half, and we're going to have to get him out of there. Which at this point, you should just be like, all right, well, we should not have Aaron Rodgers right now. You could probably get a mint for him if you were taking that stance. There's just it's such a misuse of resources. It's insane.
I am with you 100%. And Ben, JEC Clapton, I think was the name in chat, said kind of what I had just mentioned. Furious in the sense of Rodgers, where they didn't get him any weapons. Not that they drafted a potential successor. He threw 26 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions last season. Most would say that's a down year for Aaron Rodgers. Fine. His weapons were brutal, and Devontae Adams missed a quarter or more of the season. So it's not, when you put everything in context, did they not need to find somebody to inject into this offense to give them a punch in the arm alongside Devontae Adams or in the slot?
I mean, I don't care where they went, but I think it's regardless. This is how I view it. Regardless of how you feel about the pick, I think everyone would have to agree that Jordan Love next year gives them nothing. He can't help them win any games at any point.
Right.
Correct.
No
matter who you take in any other position, they can contribute. And the Packers have a window. Now, if you think the window is straight closed and you want to blow it up, then go ahead and draft Jordan Love. But I don't think that's what they're doing by any stretch. Like, if you have multiple years of Rodgers left, I think you got to push all your chips in the middle and worry about it long-term later. Listen, I understand you want to plan for the future. Maybe Rodgers doesn't play that long. There will be future drafts. It's not like there won't be quarterbacks coming out. And to me, the difference between the Favre Rodgers and the Rodgers Love thing is Rodgers plummeted. It was ridiculous. The Packers had no interest in drafting him. They did because he fell so much.
Best available. Yeah.
Jordan Love, no one was like, can you believe what's happening here? People just weren't taking him. I didn't think there was I wouldn't have found it that surprising if he didn't go in the first round last night before the draft started. I knew teams someone would get him, but I don't think it was they had to take him because they fell in their lap. It was just mind-boggling to me that this is the guy, and he could sit on the bench for many, many years. It's not like all of a sudden he's automatically going to be Aaron Rodgers. There's a real chance that the successor to Aaron Rodgers is not Jordan Love. Yeah.
And Andrew makes a good point in chat. He says, Laffy, they've consistently found good wide receivers, second round and later. They don't need to reach there. I don't think any of us would disagree that there's still an immense amount of skill position talent left in this draft.
Yeah.
The argument is you're still taking a quarterback in the first round. And unless you plan on trading Aaron Rodgers, which would be insane in its own right, is ultimately saying that we just drafted a guy in the first round that we're not going to use for this amount of years. And like Ben said, Aaron Rodgers fell into their lap.
They didn't want to do that. I can almost guarantee that was not their plan.
Right. So how many good years do you think Aaron Rodgers still has left?
Define good.
Winning season, like where he does not negatively impact the team.
2.5. negatively impact the team? Oh, more than that then. 3.5?
Where he would likely be better. Tough question, but where he would likely be better than a late first round quarterback
Until he's not able to play.
Right.
Yeah, like this, we're talking
Right.
about a guy that's a first ballot Hall of Famer that played for a team that went 13-3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
He had an AV in the season of 14, which is fantastic. 26 TDs, 4 picks. Like, it doesn't appear to be imminent.
No. And
No,
also a
it's not.
team that finally found their running back.
Yeah.
Listen, and a chat just mentioned this. Who at wide receiver? I don't think it had to be a wide receiver.
No.
It could be any other position. Any position where next year that position will be in a better spot because of that first round pick. I mean, obviously quarterback, there's only one of them. It's purely for the future. So I don't get it. I do think it's a fair point to say that the Packers, they've been winning for decades. They do get the benefit of the doubt, but just in a vacuum, I don't see it. I really was shocked that them of all teams where it feels like this is an all-in situation, the window is closing. You got to do everything you can to win right now, and this is the opposite of that.
ESPN had their needs at wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, inside linebacker, and D end. No matter what you think of this,
Game tight end.
any one of those position things will make you slightly better for this particular season. Whereas Jordan Love provides 0 wins to this team now or in 2021.
Steve Maidman says maybe Green Bay knows something they are not telling us. Now, that's getting into the conspiracy theory world.
Yeah.
I'm willing to entertain any of those
course.
questions.
Rodgers has the Rona, not going to make it.
Oh God.
Like,
I still think I still think this was we're smarter than the competition. Oh, I can't believe Jordan Love is here. It worked before. We've got to do this. But when you can't draft when you've drafted someone that is not going to help you for the next several years, even if Rodgers got hurt during the season, Love would have been practicing with the second team. Like he would have no experience, and now you're just throwing him into the fire.
and
So
if Rodgers gets hurt, you're not a contender anymore, so it doesn't matter. Like you're
right, we've
you're
seen
not
that
gonna-
countless times.
And then you could
No.
probably draft a quarterback that's better than Jordan Love.
That's the point. If he goes downhill, you're going to be terrible, and you're going to have the 5th pick next year, and you can go get Justin Fields. Like, I don't get it. I just listen. Maybe it will be another seamless transition in Green Bay, and we'll say, "Wow, they bridged the gap once again." I really don't see that, and there's no doubt in my mind this year they have a less of a chance to do anything because they are missing a first-round pick. It's as if they didn't have a pick.
And
Yeah,
I want to say, like,
it is.
he got drafted where he should get drafted.
I think it's fine.
Probably even slightly later than he should.
Fair
It's
point.
not like he should have gone 60th or something like that. They didn't reach. They just shouldn't have taken him.
Right. Looking years down the road, when you pull up those picks and we have a spreadsheet of the reaches that didn't pan out, it won't be him.
No.
Because his ADP, so to speak, was accurate.
Yeah, like ESPN had him ranked 20th. But like,
It's literally the
Sure.
reverse of when Ben was saying, hey, if there's a guy and he's 10th overall best available, but he's the best at his position, you have to take him. It's like the reverse of that, you
Yeah.
know, because you just don't need that at all. Any other position almost, I would have been at least willing to entertain it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't. Position scarcity when there's only one is a thing. Like, I'll put it like this. I know this is a ridiculous scenario, but just to illustrate the point. At what point do you think the Chiefs would draft Jordan Love? Like, you think they draft him in the 6th round?
yes.
Exactly. Because it's a worthless pick, no
the
matter
hell do they
how
need him for?
valuable he could be to somebody else.
Yeah, besides trying to trade him in the future. But I just mean there are teams, and I know Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes are not even remotely comparable in terms of where they're at. But the Packers, to me, are not a team where you're taking a quarterback roughly around where he should go in the 1st round. If this is the 3rd round and they take Jordan Love because no one's taking him, it's like, yeah, I get it. You're not paying a premium for him.
If Aaron Rodgers is Tom Brady or Drew Brees, I have less of a problem with it too.
Of course.
Yeah. Look, if the Cowboys drafted Saquon Barkley, no matter how good of a player he is, it would have been a terrible pick.
But at least those two guys can play together.
They can, but it's the question. No. But it's still the question of what else could you have done with this team to patch up holes?
Right.
And the Packers were good, but there's still holes. The Cowboys would have been even better with a 1-2 punch, but you're paying Ezekiel Elliott a ton of money. There's, what would be the point of having that specific 1-2 punch? Whether it would make your team better in the running game marginally, because they're both really good, but it's going to hurt you really badly somewhere else where you could have spent it on a cornerback or something like that. So
like that one sounds so outlandish when you say it. Like if they took Saquon Barkley, like why would they? And this one is on like a completely different planet in a completely different galaxy. And your example is just like, wow, you definitely shouldn't do that. And this one's even way further down the line. Yeah,
exactly.
Way worse.
Yeah, this is quarterback kick. Like, I mean, again, no one would care about this. Like, kickers go late in the draft. If the Ravens take the best available kicker in the 7th round, that wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because he's never going to see the field with Justin Tucker ever. Now, again, you want to say that in 4 years, they're going to be in a better spot because they did this, or 3 years, or maybe you think it's sooner than that. I guess that's an argument to have. I think that's a pretty big risk. We don't know. What happens if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and wants to play
what if he's Brady?
A while?
And he plays at least 43 or whatever. That's 7 years from now.
I know.
Like, and I think that's very doubtful, but I don't think it's impossible.
Would Green Bay trade Rodgers? No. Quarterbacks don't get traded.
I think that would make more sense than just riding it out.
Yeah. But like that's not a thing that happens.
So
that would be an unprecedented move in the NFL, right?
Pretty much.
I can't think of another scenario where someone at his level has ever been dealt.
Peyton Manning. Or no, that was a free agency, right?
Yeah, he got cut.
Was that free agency?
I mean, the Colts thought he was like, very different.
I know,
scenario.
and then he went on to have then he went on to throw for 5,000 yards.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
And then when he won a Super Bowl, when his arm was done.
Yeah, then when he threw
so
done.
Anyway, let's move this on to the Dolphins quickly. The three of us discussed it a lot yesterday. Before we do, the esports package at awesemo.com, we have monthly, weekly, and we have an express weekly package. All of these packages, depending on your financial circumstances, can be tailored to what you need and what you're able to work with. So check it out, awesemo.com/join esports. If you haven't done so yet, we've had some good results. Alex has been winning money, Awesemo himself, and a lot of our subs tweeting at us and DMing us, letting us know that they've had great results as well. Playing League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Rocket League, Call of Duty today on DraftKings. Interesting stuff. And we have the projections, the ownership rankings, the top stack tool, which, God, I could not say better things about how that worked for baseball. And now League of Legends, and all the premium articles. Head over to awesemo.com. It's AWESEMO/join esports, or you could just click on esports and it'll prompt you over there. But /join esports. Check it out today. The Express Weekly, if you're working with limited funds, the weekly, which is honestly pretty cheap in its own right, and the monthly, which is also based on the success we expect you to have. Also well worth it. So we'll see you over there, and join the premium Slack chat when you do. People talking strategy all day long, especially when sports return. Okay, so they go with Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama quarterback, number 5. And then number 18, they take offensive tackle Austin Jackson from USC. And there were not there were some people that weren't huge on this one. And then the Miami Dolphins with that later pick at 30. Did they trade down to 30?
Yeah,
they did.
There was some swaps in there.
Yeah.
With Green Bay, it was people. Yeah, that's the other thing we didn't mention. Green Bay moved up a little to go get him.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
they traded up.
They were 30th, and then they moved up. Again, I don't have the logistics in front of me, but
you know what? God, we have to go back. We have to revisit this. I'm sorry. Chat will be forgiving because this is insane.
Chat's trying to say that Drew Brees got traded to the New Orleans Saints, so maybe we shouldn't take their words for anything here. That gentleman signed a free agent contract. Yeah.
Was it? So
Alex Smith is not quite in the same level as Aaron Rodgers right now in this example either.
I need someone to explain this to me because I could definitely be missing something. Happens often, particularly on this show. What's that?
Yeah, they gave up. Appreciate that, Scary Flying. Green Bay gave up a 4th rounder to move up.
Okay, so it's that. Generally speaking, that would be worth it. But can we just look at the teams ahead of them? Titans, they just gave Ryan Tannehill a $118 million contract. Okay. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. The Seahawks have Russell Wilson. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. And the Dolphins just took Tua. So please tell me what I'm missing here. Who were they worried was going to snipe Jordan Love from them?
Even if you're worried.
No. But
just don't do it.
Let's stay with that premise for a moment. Let's assume.
Well, you're worried about people trading into those other 4 spots.
It has to be. That's the only logical explanation.
That piece is too obvious.
Right, because none of those other teams have any interest in a quarterback right now.
Yeah, clearly they were worried that he was still on the board and somebody was going to go get them. But listen, everything I said is just slightly more magnified. That they decided it's time to go get their guy. I respect that. We just talked about seeing what they're doing, just disagreeing. I see what they did. They waited and they said, this is the guy for the future. We're going to do what we did. We're sticking to our formula. I respect that. It's worked in the past. I don't see it working here. Simple as that.
So the Maharishi said, so obviously the Packers think they got their guy for the future. Let's say that that's true. They think that they are so smart that they could draft a quarterback in the mid-20s that they're going to put on ice for multiple years, will go on to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And no other team took him before 20 whatever. You think you're that smart? That's preposterous.
This is the theme of today's show. This is what this is what we've all been discussing, from Jalen Reagor to Jordan Love to all of these guys, right?
It's craziness.
Let's see how other sites ranked this pick from the Packers. They do like grades. Wow. Yahoo gave it a B-. All right. They're saying they didn't give up too much. CBS gave him a D. Said terrible move by the Packers. Aaron Rodgers last summer told me he wants to play till he's 40. They need a receiver. They needed defensive help. Sitting behind Rodgers will do Love well, but not going to do the Packers well. You're on the cusp of getting a Super Bowl. Get Rodgers some help. Yes, that's it. You're on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl. A first-round pick could have made an immense difference.
Yeah,
and it didn't. So okay, I'm done pissing you off, Maharishi, because we like you. But I think deep down you're a little upset because
hey, listen,
you're a smart guy.
I respect that people trust. They've built up some goodwill there. They have done right by their fans a lot. But again, it's similar to a lot of things where I'm not sure how indicative that is that this is going to work. Maybe they'll do it again and we'll be proven wrong. It doesn't add up to me. Simple
Chad Reuter gave it an A- on NFL Network or NFL.com.
He probably liked that made up guy that the Raiders took too. So,
well, hey, if I'm playing devil's advocate, there's one aspect of this here where you could say, well, they'll just take a couple skill players in the second and third, fine. But anyway, do you guys have any issues with the Dolphins and what they've done in this draft? They took Noah. God,
yes, that was a terrible pick.
I can't.
Their other two picks were atrocious.
Benodi.
Yeah, I guess the problem is like this is the issue when it comes to the draft, and we are subject to this as well. Like thinking something's good or bad. Yahoo gave it a C+. CBS gave it an A+. The 30th pick, the defensive back.
They gave that an A+.
An A+.
What in the world did they have him ranked at before? He's 60th in ESPN.
He's 60th?
Yeah.
So
Just
I will
30
say
off
this,
of
though.
30.
But the one thing that we all have, just like, again, I'll go to DFS when you're drafting players. You have some guys, small margin of error. That guy, from what I've know about him, he easily, they say, could be by far the best cornerback in the draft, or he could be out of the league immediately. He's extreme boom bust. He moved over from wide receiver, incredibly raw. So if you're drafting for ceiling, I think that I get that. If you're drafting for floor, obviously I would really disagree with the pick. Not all the picks are for safety. That's one thing to consider at least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not no A+, that's for sure.
No. Dude,
I would have took Gladney, who went right behind him.
ESPN gave him a below average rating on ball skills,
well,
which should be
Sweet.
a little standout for corner. But
yeah,
again, I don't care about any of these people as picks. I'm not grading talent
Yeah,
at
it has
all.
nothing to do with that.
I don't care at all about whether or not I think one of these guys is any good.
So in this case, you're grading the idea that they could have gotten this guy somewhere else.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Exactly.
all I care about, is whether or not they could have extracted more value with that pick than they did.
And if you didn't get him somewhere else, let's say you wanted him in the second round or wherever, right? And you didn't get there. You have to ask yourself the question, is that going to be the difference between our franchise being good in a year or not, or 2 years or not? That's a question that can't necessarily be answered. I get that. But ultimately, are there comparable talents? Because we never actually know if these guys are going to pan out or not. Are there comparable talents that if he's gone when our pick comes up next, will give us an opportunity to still land a player that we like? If the answer to that is yes, you don't take him in the first round.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, how you can't evaluate, we had the question, how can you say the picks are better when they haven't played a snap? It has nothing, just like, again, I keep saying just like DFS. To me, you can win and lose in DFS before the games start. A lot of times that's more important. So if you're able to get someone that's unanimously a top 10 pick, say you get him in the second round, if that guy turns out to be bad, I think you've done your job just fine. Over the long term, if you're consistently beating that and being creative, you're going to be fine, and vice versa. If you're reaching constantly and it's not panning out, you're obviously doing something wrong. So it's not just the results, for sure.
Exactly. Alex Hahn asked if I like the Eagles pick. We have something very exciting coming up where we're going to add a little bit of production to this, and we're going to make it so that, not to give too much away, but this is still like something we're going to do very shortly.
Yeah.
Where we're going to have all of the topics, and we're going to hit on each one, and we'll have the overlay changed so you'll be able to see what topic we're on and what topics we've already hit. And I think you guys will like that. So, if you tune in a little bit late, maybe you overslept and you say, oh, you know what? All right, not huge on that topic, but here's this one. Let me fast forward to that, or go back to this one. I think it'll make the entire experience a whole lot better. But we talked about that, Alex. So check it out earlier in the show. It's in the first 10 minutes or so. Josh, Mark Koval, what's up, Mark, says, can't wait till Josh gets to Jordan Brooks. Now, you were gushing over Jordan Brooks in the pre-show.
Yeah.
What is it you like so much about this pick?
Ranked 92nd by ESPN, went 27th.
That's worse than Marcus Smith.
It's brutal. By the way, Mark also said before, grading the process, not the results. Nailed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's literally what we've been saying for the past hour.
Yeah.
We're not scouts. We are as far as college football goes, Ben knows more about the players than any of us do, but I'm willing to admit that I'm not as smart as the consensus that puts a guy outside of the top 50, the consensus, right? Like, if that's the case, I'm willing to admit that there's something to it. Maybe he belongs in the 60s. Maybe he belongs in the 40s, but does he belong at 15?
Right. No, to get from 92 to 27, I mean, we're talking about almost 2 full rounds.
And I like that guy a lot. I think he's going to be very good. but that doesn't justify that. That's tough.
So that brings us to the question, worst picks of the draft. We want to hear from you as well, chat. Tell us who your worst picks were from the first round. Just one, okay? What's up, Sal?
Yeah, he knows. He's a Packers fan, by the way. Sal knows.
He is Sal, don't even think about defending that with our guy Maharishi. Don't even think about it. Although Maharishi did say, he's like, I've been proven wrong so many times whenever I think they make a bad pick that I'm willing to just go with it. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you can't be arguing in favor. Like right now, at least, it's very hard to argue in favor of the quote unquote process. So let's go and let's do best and worst picks. Josh, is Jordan Brooks definitely your worst pick?
No, like to me, it has to be. Oh God, to me, it has to be Jordan Love. Given what you're giving up and what you're putting on ice, it's Jordan Love.
And we're just talking.
I don't have a problem relative to where he was picked, but this is one of the worst possible scenarios for where he could possibly be picked, and just an absolute wasting of an asset.
For example,
for a team that just went 13-3, it's not like the Packers were 6-10 last year and had that pick from an old trade or something like that.
Right.
I mean, that's 13-3 that's no joke.
As an example, let's assume the Titans never signed Ryan Tannehill and drafted Jordan Love there. We'd be saying great pick.
Yes. Like, what are the what's the Packers' odds right now? Obviously,
odds.
I don't know to do like anything good this year.
Okay, I'll pull that up. I'm gonna pull out the futures, Ben, while you give me your worst pick of this draft.
So I'm gonna go with run the bases here. I don't think Ruggs was the worst pick. I didn't like it. Arnett, I've seen a lot of Ohio State football, man. And again, we're just talking about the same thing. I'm fairly certain they could have waited for him. The Raiders used that second pick in the first round for the cornerback. I don't really get why they did that at 19. The best pick for me is very easy. It's Jerry Jeudy at 15. Broncos got the guy that I wanted them to get. Jeudy, Sutton, and Locke is going to be a serious, dangerous combo with Melvin Gordon in the backfield.
Okay. So Packers are plus 2,200 to win the Super Bowl. That's behind the Chiefs, Ravens, Niners, Saints, Bucks, Eagles, and Patriots.
They're the favorites to win their division. And they were just like, you know what? We don't need a first round pick this year.
Right. But they're behind. They're behind 8. They're behind the Seahawks too. The conference, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're tied for 6th. But exactly, Josh, as far as the division goes, because we know this, there's enough parity in football that once you get into the postseason, no holds barred.
Right.
Like,
and
once
by the
you
way,
get into the postseason, there's
Seahawks
a shot
being
of
plus 900 and Packers plus 1,000 is insignificant in terms of actual odds of winning. It's like 10% versus 11%.
Yeah, 2,000, 2,200, pretty much the same. There's a pretty tight grouping there. And again, parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, not P-A-R-O-D-Y. There's a ton of movement every year. Look at the Niners, dude. Most people had them projected to win less than 8 games last year. Yeah. And they won a Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Jaguars, when they should have gone to the Super Bowl and blew that, was it Doug Marrone? Blew that against the Patriots because they took their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
That team was not expected to be particularly good that year. And that's just the first 2 off the top of my head. There's at least 2 of them every single year that do that.
Yeah. For some reason, they took a bullet out of their gun.
Correct. And so did the Falcons in the same year. Yeah. They should have went heavy on the gas. But in the NFC North, Josh, you said, and you are right, they are not projected. They are favored against the field, plus 135, Vikings plus 175, Bears plus 400, Lions plus 800. So you are still favored to win your division, meaning, and look, would a first round skill player have won them a Super Bowl this year? No, but if you're expecting Rodgers to play even 3 more years, and now that first round skill player is making an impact in the coming years, it's a huge difference. But I digress. Yeah, those are their odds. Their win total is 9, which again really isn't bad. So they're
Yeah,
also
oh, man.
they're also minus 182, yes, to make the playoffs.
And they're just like, nah.
It just seems like friend of the show, Andrew Boudreau, he says, when we actually see the process. I would argue that's not seeing the process, that's seeing the result.
Yeah.
Correct.
If Jordan Love turns out to be the best quarterback in this draft, I don't think you look to Cincinnati and say they should have taken him first.
Yeah.
That's
I also
not how
wouldn't
it
change
works.
anything that I'm saying right now.
Neither would I. But that's what I'm saying, where it's a fine line. It doesn't mean that you can't alter and look back and be like, wow, I was misguided there. You can't just say, well, nothing matters. But you also don't reorder the draft saying, wow, this guy in the third, like, easiest example, Tom Brady should not have gone first in his draft. Obviously, I don't know how you could think that would be the case. That would be insanity to take him first.
Let's not forget, Mel Kiper had Aaron Rodgers going 3rd to Cleveland in 2005.
3rd.
It's crazy to me, but I'd say worst pick for me. I want to say Rager, but I think it's Love or Brooks. The only reason I'm saying Rager again is because there are a lot of wide receivers, and I think they still could have done a really good job trading down and then opening something else up where they add another 3rd round pick or something, or maybe even more. I have trouble believing that there was no team willing to trade down, or no team willing to trade up, and no team willing to let the Eagles trade up to get a CeeDee Lamb. I'll say the most confounding pick is, to some extent, outside of Love. I think we just have to rule that out for a moment, because that's going to be the same answer. The CeeDee Lamb pick to me is still strange. And I get you have to, I see Ben laughing, but hold on.
Cowboys.
I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm saying it's a strange pick, because on one hand, yes, you're just taking the best guy available. And if CeeDee Lamb ends up being the next, I don't know, DeAndre Hopkins, it was a brilliant idea. But Josh, all I'm saying is they did just sign Omari to a $100 million deal. They just gave him a lot of money. They just had a 1,000-yard season from Michael Gallup, and they don't exactly have a guy right now that operates out of the slot. So could it work? 100%. Do I think it's a little bit of a head scratcher? Yeah, I do.
The only question that I have, and it's not something that I just have off the top of my head, NBA is a little bit different compared to NFL, is I don't really know what Amari Cooper's contract really means for the future.
That's fair.
If they could cut him at the end of this year and only have a $4 million loss or one of those really weird NFL things, I have no idea. At which point that doesn't look nearly as bad. I don't know whether that is or isn't a thing right now, but I can't give too much judgment because I just don't have the knowledge of it.
Fair take. Best picks from the night. I'll go first here. We'll go around the horn, Ben, to you, and then Josh. I just really like the Tristan Wirfs pick. If you're bringing Brady in, you're pairing him with Rob Gronkowski, you need to protect him. And while it can take some time for a first-round tackle to develop, it's very possible that he is in there on game 1, and he could be the guy of the future. Tristan Wirfs, out of Iowa, 13th. He fell a lot, traded up, traded up 1 pick with the 49ers. They get him, the guy that's going to protect Tom Brady, protect his blind side. To me, this is just a really good pick. And as Ben noted in previous shows, Tristan Wirfs is an athletic freak of nature. So there's a lot I really like about this pick at 13. Some teams had it, or a lot of people had him projected to go 4th to the Giants. So he fell way further than I expected. Who do you have, Ben?
It's Judy for me. If it wasn't him, I'll say I really like what the Niners did. They used that pick they got from the Colts, filled the need on the line with Kinlaw, and then they grabbed Brandon Ayuk at 25, adding to the weapons. So I thought they were really efficient, navigated in and out nicely. But it's clearly, for me, Jerry Jeudy at 15. Perfect fit. Didn't have to move up to get him. That is a huge win for the Broncos.
Okay. Yeah, that is a really nice pick to pair him with Cortland Sutton. depending on the quarterback play, that could be a dangerous offense, but it's all going to come down to that. Josh, who's the best pick?
Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, I'm with Ben on this one.
Give me another one, just based on trying to mix it up a little bit here.
Minnesota taking Jefferson looks good. I don't hate the CD Lamb pick. I mean, just the wideouts in general really all broke pretty well. Yeah, probably Jefferson to Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a lot of people that aren't high on him at all, and others that say, man, how much stock, Ben, do you put into Jefferson's numbers at the collegiate level, where he had like 18 touchdowns and 1,550 yards and 100+ receptions in a season? Like, what do you make of that?
Not much.
Can we look at that to translate, or because Jalen Reagor only had 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, but also had terrible quarterback play?
Yeah, I don't get into that too much. I like that he can operate out of the slug. Listen, I heard multiple times last night Keenan Allen. I think that's fantastic comp. I see that.
I like that. I'd be happy with him.
Can catch the ball. Well, you're not going to be happy with it because you don't have him. You should have.
Oh,
you
what
don't.
an asshole. I meant if I'm that team.
Yeah, if you're that team, Minnesota's going to be happy with it. I think he's that type of guy. Yeah. Another great one is Cardinals. It's not getting a ton of buzz, but Simmons is just a player out of Clemson. That made total sense for them. No, those are the type of picks. I think you can't be mad at it. Just a really quality pick, can move all around the defense.
Giants taking Andrew Thomas was surprising to some.
Expensive.
We knew, honestly, outside of Joe Burrow and Chase Young, to me, the biggest lock of this draft outside of those two was honestly Justin Herbert. I didn't see any way that the Chargers didn't take him. It was just obvious to me. I don't hate the pick at all. I think in a spot like this, you've got to pull the trigger and just get to him. So I think that's like the most sensible pick.
They were really good. Kenneth Murray is a player at Oklahoma who I think he can contribute immediately. They had 2 picks, and I think they used them wisely. You got to be pretty happy if you're a Chargers fan.
No question. And last thing here, we go around the horn. Josh, the Kansas City Chiefs take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My biggest question here is, would you, and I know you've got your numbers in front of you, and then you, Ben, because this is going to be a hot topic of conversation. And by the way, when we come back on Monday, a whole lot more draft coverage. We love having these conversations. We'll have even more information based on the following rounds of the draft, and a whole lot to talk about once we see all of these teams' final product. Do you think this guy should have been drafted before the, several other, expected top tier running backs, or do we have faith in a guy like Andy Reid, who has clearly made some mistakes along the way, but has also done a very good job of drafting some great running backs, particularly LaShawn McCoy and Brian Westbrook?
I don't have an issue with it really based on what I'm seeing. Not a great pick. Swift seems to be ranked higher than him so like in that regard, it's kind of weird. They're not so far separated that like you can't see, slightly better things from one of those guys for that particular team. But ESPN had him ranked 28th. He went 32nd. So like in the grand scheme of things, it's not really outlandish. It's not great. Like leaving Swift on the board, I think is probably the most problematic piece of it. But like just taking him there, I don't see as wildly crazy.
And Ben, kind of speaking to what Josh is saying, if there was ever a team that drafts a skill player to fit their offense, Kansas City basically hits that on every single level.
Yeah. And I think he does. I wasn't in love with the pick, but I certainly think, first of all, they have the luxury. They can kind of do what they want at that pick. They could really go anywhere. They're going to be just fine. So I had no problem with it. The guys, for me, just the last thing I'll say on all of this, I'm really excited to see Swift go off the board and Laviska Shenault. If we're looking forward to tonight, Those are the two players I think are game changers. I think they're going to go off the board quickly, and potentially they have massive first round appeal.
Okay. With rounds 2 and 3 coming up, this is a fun question for sure. Cincinnati Bengals, Colts, Lions, Giants, Patriots didn't have a first round. They're Panthers, Dolphins, Texans, Browns, so on and so forth. Where do you see these running backs? Where do you see them landing? There are like Colts have Marlon Mack, Bengals, and they have some holes. Bengals have Joe Mixon, who wants that huge contract. Lions, I honestly have no idea.
No.
What?
Carry on, our man. I love Carry on Johnson.
I know. Like that in terms of their needs, there's no way they draft a running back.
Miami.
I'm just saying, I'm not necessarily sold on Curry and Johnson. Giants have a running back. Patriots have Sonny Michel. Panthers have Christian McCaffrey. God, like the Dolphins might be the first team to draft a running back in the second round.
Man, if they can get Swift there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because unless teams are pulling like the Cowboys and going best available, I'm not really sure. Think about what I just said. Like Mixon, Mack, Currion, Saquon, Sonny Michel, depends on what you want, but the Patriots didn't have it first. Christian McCaffrey. Then you got the Dolphins. Everyone else has what could be considered their guy at running back already.
It's going to be very, very interesting. And there's, Delpit and McKinney, safeties on the board. There's going to be some drama. We've seen time and time again. These second round picks to me are worth their weight in gold. Yeah. How many top end players are early, mid second round picks, and they make a bigger impact than some of these top 10 guys right off the bat?
It happens so much more often than you would think.
It's nuts.
It's insanity. Honestly, as an Eagles fan my whole life, it feels like all of our good players come from the second round, at least skilled players.
Yeah.
But do the Texans draft a running back?
No.
You say that like no way, but
they already have 15 running backs.
Yeah, but one of them is like David Johnson. I don't know. I actually don't think it would be crazy if Jonathan Taylor was there that they took him.
David Johnson's just so expensive that I don't know if you can spend any more money like that.
It's so dumb that they made that. It's just beyond me.
So crazy that David Johnson was like, the number one fantasy option 16 months ago. And now it's just like, cannot believe the Texans got David Johnson. What a farce.
Wild.
Not a farce, but they gave up DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't mean that like it's your opinion, but like that is
okay.
Like that is sort of like a public opinion of like David Johnson is now washed.
Yeah, right. No, I hear you, and we don't know yet. But how about this though? Say the Texans don't. They take like a DN. Then you've got the Cleveland Browns. They have Nick Chubb, and they have Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette in Jacksonville. The Bears just spent a decent amount getting or in the draft getting David Montgomery. Then you've got the Colts.
There's no reason you can't take a running back if you're Jacksonville.
I hear you, but like here's the crazy thing, and this could be insane. The Colts come up again, and then at 45 you have the Bucks. Dude, the Bucks might land Jonathan Taylor at 45. I know Ben smiles. He's just disgusted by this team. I don't care what. Dude, they got their offensive line, the offensive tackle that should have been like top 5 according to people. Brady, Gronk. Now it depends if they're any good. Chris Godwin. They're keeping OJ Howard, Mike Evans. Oh my God! If they landed Jonathan Taylor,
I hope they do.
Shit.
By the time the season gets around, we'll be saying, "Are you taking over under 15.5 wins for them in the DK Sportsbook?" So I'll be excited to get into that conversation. Jonathan Taylor, 18 fumbles, but yeah, we'll see. It's possible. There's going to be someone there for him.
How good will Blaine Gabbert look under center for that Bucks team?
I'm excited to see it.
That's our cue. Anything else, fellas?
Yeah, I got one last thing. I found a even more updated version of Mel Kiper's mock draft in 05, where Aaron Rodgers is projected to go first.
Wow.
Yeah, there was real talk. That was the Alex Smith draft, right?
Virtually nothing separates Rodgers and Utah quarterback Alex Smith, but Rodgers gets the nod because of his local roots and the fact that he conducted an outdoor workout for the 49ers.
he thought he was going first. Like it was a real potential that he was going first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very different
That's
to take
crazy.
Rodgers at that spot later on. That's all
Wow.
I got now.
Ben,
This was fun. Chat,
this was
as
awesome.
always,
Close us out, Ben.
you guys, listen, we love it. This show is no fun if it's just us three. You guys engaging makes it what it is. Hit the like button. Monday, get ready for more egregious takes from us three. We want you guys involved. Again, matinee, I guess we could call it. We got 5 o'clock ENBA sim doubleheader. So if you guys are, hanging before the draft, stop on by. And like I said, hit the like button on your way out, and we will be back Monday for more NFL draft recap.
Peace.